Just a quick informal poll. I know probably most of you have never, ever thought these 5 words, but has this ever come to your mind before when you've been in a meeting or a presentation? Oh, I'm not the only one. Okay. I don't know how many times I've been in a presentation or a meeting and I have thought it 500 times more than I've said it, but I've wanted to say it. Just get to the point. Now, I want to show you an example of what this does not look like. This may be traumatic for some of you. I'm going to give you a content warning before this next slide, okay? What I'm going to show you, I want you to react to viscerally, out of your gut, no words. I just want to hear the first sound that comes to you when you see this email. No cheers? Nobody's happy? I've shown this thing for months and months, and I still have not been able to bring myself to read this message. This is a real email from a real company to real customers saying, I don't know what it's saying. Now, use words. How does this make you feel? Overwhelmed. Angry. Yeah, angry. Uninterested. You're going to hit delete real fast, right? Yeah. This is not clear communications. Now, there's a whole bunch of words. There's something in there. It might actually be the next Powerball thing for $1 billion, but nobody's going to read it because the sender has overwhelmed you, and you're not going to do it. The problem is, we don't need any more haystacks. Just give me the needle, please. Nobody has time for a dumping of unstructured information. And when we give people the haystack and not the needle, we're not communicating. We're frustrating them. And our job as communicators, in whatever role we have, whether you're a professor, a salesperson, a marketer, an advertiser, a coach, pastor, parent, our job is to get to the point so that people know what we're doing and what we're saying. You've probably felt like this too. This is what it feels like when 2 people are speaking to you at the same time. It's the same kind of discombobulation. I was in a restaurant last week with some family. Great restaurant, great food, great company. That place was so loud. The ambient noise, I don't know how they created this thing, but the noise was so bad, you just had to yell, which I don't like to do, and that pretty much ruined it. We don't have the capacity to deal with all that information. And you've probably also experienced this dilemma, where you said something, you know you said something quite clearly. You are in a meeting with 10 people, and everything was discussed, and do you know how many different things are walking out of that meeting? 10. So the fact that words have been exchanged does not mean that meaning and understanding and alignment has occurred. So we have challenges as communicators. And I love this quote. It's attributed often to George Bernard Shaw. He may or may not have said it, but I love the quote anyway. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. We think we've communicated, but we haven't. So this is a dilemma we all face, and the skill we need to develop is how do you get to the point? And by the time I end this talk, you're going to walk away with something that's going to change in the way you communicate in a very tangible way starting tomorrow. I'm going to show you a very specific way you can get to the point that'll change your effectiveness. We only have a few seconds to engage our audience. If I had stood up here and started speaking to you in Russian and putting up a bunch of random pictures of, let's say, I don't know, Russian nuclear plants that had exploded in any time, I'd lose you real fast because this is not something important to you and you don't understand what I'm saying. Well, here's the fact. Our biggest competition as human beings and as communicators is that there's a vast array of noise out there. What we're competing with is not this company, this product, or this brand. What we're all competing with in anything we do is the noise. It's distraction. Quick question. How many times does the average American look at their phone per day? Just start throwing some numbers out. Throw some guesses. 100 to 150 times per day. And some people, as you know, are much more than that. Average screen time, being in front of screens of any sort, 7 hours per day, half of which is a mobile phone. That is my competition. That's your competition. We're not competing against a bunch of other stuff. We're competing against ambient noise, and when it comes through this beautiful multimedia device, you know what? It's pretty compelling, which means I've got to be even more compelling than Netflix. Now, you have to know the competition. The competition is the noise. But here's the funny thing. We also have one single customer. We have the same competition, and we have the same customer, which is the human brain. And the way I put it is this, that overloaded, overwhelmed human brain, which has to go through all this noise, the brain wants what it wants, the way it wants it. And we're either going to give information to the human brain the way it wants it, obey the rules, or we're going to get ignored. So let's take a little trip into brain science, and you're going to learn the secrets of how to get into any person's mind, because we all have a common operating system in our brains. What we're up against, and these numbers are frightening. You've heard of the blood-brain barrier. Well, there's also something I'm going to call the flood-brain barrier. Your brain is flooded, and mine, with 11 million bits of information per second from all 5 senses. 11 million bits. Always has been, every day, every second. You haven't known that, have you? How come you haven't known it? I'm going to explain that in a minute. But I mean, that's nuts. That's crazy. What we have to do is we have to earn focus, and focus is 60 bits. If I'm talking face-to-face with you and you're concentrating on me, this is a 60-bit interaction. That's all you can get. If you have the two sharks talking into your ears, you can't focus anymore. So the big battle for us is the 60-bit battle. 60 bits versus 11 million. How in the heck do we win that battle? We can. Because the brain has this absolutely wonderful neurobiological filter called the reticular activating system. You have an RAS, I have an RAS, everybody's brain has one. And the job of the RAS is to filter out the noise. It's to filter everything that's not important and only bring to your attention that 60-bit focus. So here's the big question. If this is the master gatekeeper, if this is the filter, what does it want? What is the RAS looking for? And now you're going to learn something real important. The RAS is looking for the what's in it for me. Anybody that's been in sales learns that you have to go to the customer and tell them the what's in it for me, the thing that matters to them. Well, in fact, that's true of all communication. The brain wants to know what is relevant right now. immediate personal relevance. Is this important? Does this matter to me right now? Is this interesting? Is this something I can use? And if we don't get quickly that signal of relevance, we push that to the side and move to the next thing. That's why so many boring speakers lose their audience in the first 4 minutes, and all of a sudden everybody's turning to the alternate, their phone. Why? Didn't get to the point. Didn't demonstrate relevance. So we have to learn how to front load all of our communications, all of them, spoken, written, with relevance. The killer of human engagement and attention is TMI, too much information. If we dump unstructured information, too much of it on people, we lose them. And we lose whatever opportunity there was to gain what we're trying to do with these people. So, nobody needs any more work. Nobody's brain, it's doing 11 million bits, we don't need any more. Clarity is kindness. We are being kind to people. To be unclear, Dave Ramsey used to say, it still says, is to be unkind. We have to be nice to that brain that's overloaded and give it what it wants right now. So here's a technique you can walk away with today. Anytime you're making a formal or some kind of planned communication, I'm not talking about just chatting over beer in the backyard. I'm just talking about, emails, presentations, meetings. You want to stratify your information. First, you have to get to the point, the essence, the distilled purpose, the thing. Here's what we're saying, here's what we're doing. We heard all about this with the meetings. This is why so many meetings are a failure, is the person that's leading it doesn't have a point or doesn't know how to articulate the point. If you can reduce where you're going, what your purpose is, to one sentence, you can win, even before an email. Now that you've won my attention, you've just bought the right to go into a little more outline, a little more background, a little more context, because now you've got my 60 bits. Then, and only then, have you earned the right to go into the details. Every time you communicate, think about stratifying and saying, what's the point? Do you know what uses this structure? Books. The distilled essence is the title and the subtitle. The table of contents is the outline. And all the stuff in the chapters, the details. Clinical papers for doctors use the same type of format. Turns out this is a great format for every type of communication you do. If you go through the work of distilling your point, you've earned the right to be listened to. If you just dump it out there, opportunity lost. So, I promised change, here's change. This is what you can do immediately, tomorrow, to apply this. The most important visual real estate in your email is the subject line and the first sentence. You've got to put the point, the reason, the call to action right up front. Why? Because your email is one of who knows how many in somebody's inbox. And what are they looking at when they go to their inbox? The subject line and maybe the first sentence. That's the RAS's time to evaluate. Important, not important. Relevant, not relevant. So when you write an email, be sure to front load it with something interesting, something extremely specific, a deadline, a call to action, so that people will know this is important. You remember the email we started with. That one did not get a lot of good responses. Why? Because it wasn't digestible. This is how you can start the practice of getting to the point. So getting to the point is one of 4 rules in the clarity formula that I've developed. First, you have to have a point. You've actually got to articulate a point and know what it is. That's the purpose and the goal. Then you have to get to the point. Then we have to get the point across. That means we have to arrive at shared meaning and understanding, and there are techniques and tactics for that. And our goal is to reach alignment and agreement and action so that after that meeting, which has an agenda to start, it needs a summary at the end so to make sure we're all together and on the same page. These are the 4 steps of the formula I have spent years developing. And then there are also 8 shortcuts, all starting with S. The things that turn the light on in the brain quickly, stories and snippets and statements and side-by-sides. These are the techniques you can use. They're all contained in this book, The Point, which is actually my second book, Fee. The first one was 5 years ago. This is the one that's just came out. I just got the author copies yesterday, and it comes out in October. So if you want to pre-order it, you can use this QR code. There's also a QR code on the table out there with the book, and you can scan it. But this discusses how to get to the point and the entire clarity formula that you can use to be a great communicator, because no matter what role you're in, no matter what company, no matter what industry, the one thing you always have to excel at is great communications. And it doesn't require a PhD. It requires some very simple principles and practices. Thanks for listening.